All right, well, welcome everyone to Indoor School Growing. My name is Dinah Mack. I'm the Education Program Manager with Massachusetts Farm to School. And if you don't know what Massachusetts Farm to School is, we are an organization that works with districts and schools and farms and throughout the state. And we work to strengthen local farms and fisheries by promoting local food purchasing in schools and also food system education in schools. And so there's a lot of ways you can get involved with Mass Farm to School. We have professional learning opportunities throughout the year, such as this. We have a Farm to School Institute, which is a really great opportunity to work with a farm to school team at your school to develop a plan. You can learn more about that on our website. We do a lot of policy work and advocacy for local food in local schools. And we also have a lot of events where we try to bring together people who are in farm to school work. If you're an educator, we have a Harvest of the Month for Educators program as well, where you get a monthly newsletter based on our crop of the month. You see those on the screen there. So I'll put the link in as well at some point during the chat if you want to sign up for that. And I'll introduce right now our speakers to you for this workshop, which I've been waiting I've been very excited for this workshop. So we have two presenters today. We have Safiyat Hamiss, who is a food garden coach and designer for Tasty Harvests, which is located in Framingham. And Safiyat works, I'll read her bio, is a food gardening coach and design business in Framingham, Mass, a mother of 3 boys. Safiyat grew her own food in her garden during the COVID-19 pandemic and was so successful that she started Tasty Harvest to help other new gardeners do the same. Safiyat helps new gardeners design and plant their gardens, teaches them how to grow food at home, coaches 5 after-school garden clubs in her community, and runs workshops and hands-on gardening activities with kids all over Framingham, Mass. And also, I'll say, has been a great asset to Mass Farm to School in writing lesson plans around working in a school garden that educators get who subscribe to our Harvest of the Month program. Some great ideas for garden, for in the garden and in the classroom activities. Juliana Soltys is the school garden manager for Groundworks Somerville, and Juliana joins Groundworks Somerville as the school garden manager with a diverse background in community-centered design, education, and sustainable farming. She maintains 10 school gardens throughout Somerville Public School District and leads garden and outdoor programming during school and after school lessons. In addition, she manages the Somerville Winter Farmers Market at the Center for Arts at the Armory, one of the few winter markets in the Boston area. So if you're in that area, go say hi to Juliana. All right, I'm going to give them the floor. If you have questions during this time, please put them in the chat and I'll monitor the chat. And we might have some time after for questions and answers, and we will be sending this slide deck and the recording to all participants. All right, take it away. Oh, Sophia, you're muted. I can't hear.
Welcome, everyone. I'm happy that you guys are here and growing. We're going to show you some few activities that you could do in your classroom, even if you don't have an outdoor garden for your class. So I'm going to take you through sprouts and microgreens. So let's begin. So sprouts and microgreens you could grow them all year round in your classroom. You don't need a lot of resources to grow sprouts or microgreens. You could use recyclable containers, trays, pots, and you just need some soil, sometimes just water, and some light. Growing sprouts and microgreens require little space. As you see in the picture there, that's just a corner in the classroom that we have. It's ideal for busy teachers that just want to introduce a little bit of gardening in their curriculum. So it won't take up too much of your time. Literally, like some of these activities are 5 or 10 minutes long. Next slide, please. So I wanted to start with the type of seeds that you would need for sprouts and microgreens. They are the same. You could use small seeds, which are like alfalfa, broccoli, bean sprouts, Brussels sprouts, excuse me, radishes and lettuces. Those are all tiny seeds. Then you have the large seeds. You could use popcorn off the shelf. I buy some of my seeds just in the grocery store, or in your kitchen pantry. If you have them, there, you could use them like green beans. As long as they're not processed, they're raw in the raw form, you could use them to grow sprouts or microgreens with them. So I'm gonna walk you through what are sprouts. Sprout is the first stage of growing a plant. So the little seedlings at the germination point. You could eat them raw. You could lightly cook them, could add them to salads, stir fries, or sandwiches. Sprouts are very crunchy in texture, nutty flavor, and high in nutrient content. The growing condition, you only need 3 to 5 days. Can you believe it? 3 to 5 days. So you could do an activity started on Monday. By Friday, you guys would be doing a taste test. The growth length of each sprout is about 2 to 3 inches, so they're tiny. The growing medium for it mostly is water. So you grow it hydroponically. The appearance of the sprout will be the seed leaves. So the first leaves that you see on them, that's the seed leaves. It doesn't require any light or any air ventilation. So you could put it literally anywhere in your classroom. This is the sprout jar setup that I love doing with the kids. It's just a mason jar. You see the bags of seeds. I have there is the peas, some radishes, the jars, and then some cheesecloth, then water. Those are the only things that you need to do this activity. You could use any size of jars. I've used the 8 ounce, the 16 ounce, or the 32 ounce. Always remember to wash them before you start the activity. If you have a windowsill and you want to put it there after, yes, you could do that. Or like the previous picture I had, it was on a table. It doesn't have to be in front of a window. If you don't have a class, if your class does not have a window, you are fine. Doesn't need any direct light. So as long as you have any light in or not, it's fine. So the steps to growing sprouts are very simple. You need the jar, you add about a tablespoon of the whatever seeds you select. You fill it up with water. It could be room temperature water or warm water. You cover it with the cheesecloth. You use normally the mason jar come with 2 pieces lid, and it has like the one that covers it, and then it has the ring. So you remove the lid part and then add the cheesecloth on top, and then you tied it up with the ring lid. Then you leave that overnight, 6 hours or overnight, then you drain it out. The next day, then you add some water, rinse it out, place it anywhere in your classroom, repeat this, rinsing it, draining, rinsing and draining, and you have some sprouts. It's very simple. This was about, I think, 3 days into the process in this picture. So this is the setup. I had the students set it up themselves. Day 1, we had the water. And then day 2, seeds start to sprout. And then day 4 already, we had some sprouts. I don't have the final one because the day that the kids just started eating it right away. There's another setup that I love to do is the sprouter tray. So I have some today just to show you how simple and easy it is. You could use these and put them in tiers, assign each student to one, have them do any different type of seeds. You could just place 1 tablespoon per tray. The top part is an irrigation system, so it has holes in there. When you stack them up and add your water from the top, it rinses through the whole system, and then the bottom part catches the water. So as it fills, goes through the seeds, then it'll stay in the bottom. If you have plants growing in your classroom already or outside, you could use that water to water your plants because it has the nutrients too that leach off from the seeds. So 3 to 4 days, you have some sprouts growing. So the setup, we add the 1 tablespoon again. These come in stack of 5 trays. So you have 5 clear trays, the top irrigation system and the bottom to catch the water. You could stack up 2, so you could have 10 clear trays. And you could assign each student to 1 tray and experiment with that. Or do the same and then have a big salad at the 5th day. The kids loved it. They really like seeing the journey of the sprouts and also testing it too. And also another thing, if you forget to water it or you're worried about like weekend, if you start on a Monday and Friday and you're worried about the weekend, you don't have to worry. Like you could leave it for the 2 days. Monday, you're still gonna have your sprouts. So this is what I did last week with my garden clubs, and we did the sprout jars and they loved it. I had some that I already grew and I had them do some taste testing. At first they were giving me like pushbacks, but one was bold and wanted to try, and then everybody tried and they couldn't stop eating it. So they were looking forward to seeing their sprouts grow and trying them. Another strategy that I use with the kids are I always ask for volunteers. So they'll come and everybody will be raising their hands and want to participate in setting up and doing the process in the class. The other activity that I love doing with the garden clubs are microgreens. So microgreen is the next stage of growing a plant. So they're young, mature greens that grow up to a few inches. They have a lot of nutrients too in the greens. So the growing condition for them are 7 to 14 days. They grow about 4 to 7 inches. The median, you could also grow it hydroponically. You could grow it in soil. The appearance with microgreens are the true leaves of the plant. It does require a little bit of light and you do need some ventilation. So what I love to do, so that the kids could take it home, I love using cups. So my setup is seeds. So here I have popcorn, I have mustard greens, seeds, and then I have potting soil and the cup and some paper and water. That's all you need to do this activity. So first you would need to make some holes in the solo cup. So in the bottom, if you could see here, I made some holes. And then you put it in the second jar. Excuse me, a second cup. So just hold the drainage, the excess water. You fill it up with the soil and then you densely seed the top. You could go to the next slide. You densely see the top, and then you cover it with paper. So you could damp the paper and cover it. You wanted to put it in a dark period time. So like you could put it anywhere that's warm, dark for the first to third day, 3 days, so that the seeds could look for light. Once they start to sprout, you bring it out and put it wherever you have light. So if you have a window, or if you don't have a window, any light in the room, you just need some light for the seeds to continue growing. And that's about it. Like they grow so fast, 7 days. Here's the setup. So I have here mustard greens. I covered it with the paper. And in 7 days, I had that. And that was it. So simple. Didn't need much space to do it. And the kids love to take it home and they bring it back to show me, yes. So they love doing it. And we have done various different varieties of seeds. And they try them. The radishes, different type of radishes will have like a purple stem. So they like the different colors that grow. So we experiment with those and different flavors too. The next slide. So this is just all the different ones that we did here. So we have the sprout tray there, and then we have the microgreens that we did in the cups. The kids setting up the jars, they love doing that. This is the popcorn and green peas. So very quick, literally 5 to 10 minutes to set up. And then you just wait for the 3 to 5 days for the sprouts to grow and 7 to 10 days for the microgreens. And that's about it.
Safiyat, how would you
Yeah.
explain the difference between the two? Is it just duration? Is it just time? Or is there different uses, different tastes? Like, do you ever do an activity where you compare the two with students, or?
We haven't compared this two side by side, but it's just a different stage of growing a seed. So the sprout is the first state of germinating the seed, and that has the seed leaf. And then the microgreens have the true leaves. So like here I have the green peas. If we were to continue to grow the green peas, these are the leaves that you're gonna see in the garden, and then it's gonna fruit. So it's just those two difference. Any questions?
Yeah, does anyone have, you could write questions in the chat for Safiyat. Any questions on sprouts or microgreens?
And these are just the few ways. There's so many ways of doing growing sprouts. You could do them with water and paper. Some people do it in Ziploc bags. So there's so many reusable items that you could use them to grow, same as microgreens too. But I love doing these because they're very simple and easy to get those containers and quick to set up too.
And it's great because you don't need a lot of space and you don't need a lot of light. So it's really perfect for any kind of classroom.
Yeah. And also what I advise, once it start looking good to eat, just eat it, don't wait. Eat it, have them taste test it, experiment in different seeds, because you'll be surprised how fast it grows. But if you leave it, like the sprouts, just say you left it for 7 days, don't leave it for 10 days. Like use it right at the 7 days and just taste test sandwiches or take it home and eat it.
This is going to sound obvious, Sophia, but to you, but when you're using the microgreens in class, do you're, because they're in soil medium, how do you wash them so they're ready to be eaten safely?
So the secret is that even though it's in soil medium, you don't really need to wash it, because what I practice, I don't cover it with soil. I'm just putting the seeds on top of soil. So we're not rooting the microgreens out. So they're just germinating from the top. So they're not touching the soil at all. You don't need to wash them. But if you do need to, if you want to avoid or just scared that there's any cross contamination with the soil, then you can wash it.
Great, thank you. And if anyone has any questions, please put it in the chat or ask Sophia.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about seed paper and how to make it, and then growing from it with kids from the Somerville Public School District. So seed paper really is just plantable paper made from embedded seeds. Usually you use recycled paper that doesn't have a lot of ink on it, that biodegrades and grows your desired plant. This is a great activity because it's very creative. It can happen and be done all year round. It also can just be a beautiful artifact or object to keep and display. And like paper, it can just be stored easily in a stack, in a drawer, anywhere, and can be used years later. This is also a fun way, as an act of seed saving and protecting seeds, especially small seeds. It's pretty easy to lose them once you remove them from a seed packet. And so this is just a visual way of displaying them. So seed paper making is a little bit more extensive. What we've done is we've collected recycled paper scraps, either just from in classrooms, art classrooms, or from home. It's better to use smaller seeds because the paper is quite thin. So things like lettuce or wildflowers, spinach is probably as large as I would go, just because of their diameter. You need water, some type of towels, paper, or cloth, a blender to make the paper pulp, and we kind of got creative when making frames for our paper, so we know how large it would be. We used popsicle sticks and glue just to make some very simple frames that the students can use. A large bucket or a sink to catch extra water. There are also a variety of different screening materials that you can use with your paper frames, window screen material, which I linked here. I've used just cloth towels as well. And then another fun part at the end that the students enjoy is marking their paper, either just free drawing on it or just stamping it. So having some type of food safe ink is always fun as a last part of the activity. So for setup, you can see here, we made some popsicle frames by just gluing 4 together to make a square or rectangle, depending on the size that you want. And so then you can cut the window screen or use towels to fit inside of that popsicle screen. And you also will need to prep in that area your blending space, a paper making area, and a drying area as well. So what we did when we were prepping or making the pulp is students can choose different combinations of recycled paper. We would organize it by color, and it's great choosing a combination of colors. As you saw on the previous slide, one of them is more brown and white, the other one has colors of pink and brown. And so it's fun to kind of make your own and just test different color combinations. And students can tear the paper into smaller chunks before fitting it into the blender. And then when it's that student's turn, you put the paper in the blender about halfway full, fill it up with water, and then just blend it it could be a fine pulp or a thicker pulp, depending on the size of the paper chunks, but you don't want them to be too big. And so the paper making part, so you want to set up your water catching bucket or sink. You can place that screen over that bucket and pour the pulp onto the screen to make like a thin layer of that paper pulp. You can gently push down the paper pulp to remove some of that excess water, but not all of the water. And you can place it on a towel in a drying area here, like in this photo. And there are kind of a couple of different ways you can add the seeds. Some people would add the seeds straight into the blender after you blend the paper down into a pulp. I prefer to add the seeds after you pour the paper onto the screen, so you can be more intentional of where seeds are placed. We've done a variety of different tests of putting a certain number of seeds in different blocks, randomly sprinkling them. There you can be more intentional with how many seeds you use, or less intentional depending on the size, like wildflowers versus spinach seeds. So here in this picture, we're testing to see if we could perforate the paper a little bit and put a certain number of seeds in each square. So later, when you're planting them, you could tear off a square, and so you would know that there were a certain number of seeds in each square. And sometimes you do need to go back and put some more water, paper pulp, just to help integrate the seeds better. But it's pretty easy just to gently place them or sprinkle them on top of the paper and gently mixing them in.
Juliana, there's great math integration in that last slide for
Yes,
people
yes,
who
you
might
can
want to integrate math.
Yes, there. This is not only an art activity or a science activity, but also can be a math activity as well, with measuring and then also counting as well. And so drying, there are a couple of options. I've done both, of either just flipping the paper onto a towel to let it dry and gently pressing it to separate from the screen. If you're less worried about reusing a screen in that moment, you can also just let it dry on the screen itself. And it usually takes, depending on the thickness of the paper, between 24 and 48 hours. And then after that time, it's super easy to just gently peel the paper off. It needs to be stored generally in a dry and dark place to prevent the seeds from germinating. But you can easily just stack it and put it away, or leave it out for students to look at as well. And as I mentioned earlier, another fun activity too is just to identify each student's paper, having them either write or stamp to kind of make that piece of seed paper their own. And so kind of the second part of this is actually growing from the seed paper. And this can happen the next day once it's dry, or a couple of years later. It doesn't matter, which is great. So you can split up this activity. It can happen in the winter, and then once you're ready and it's warmer out and you want to grow seedlings from the paper, you can do that as well, or kind of pass it along from grade to grade. Anything will do. So this is pretty easy as well. You have your seed paper. I prefer to have students grow their seed paper in plastic bags, or something clear, so that they can actually see each step of the seed growing, some type of sunlight, and then a growing container. We've used egg cartons, yogurt cups, Play-Doh cups, really anything, soil and water. So usually we would take a small piece of the seed paper, put it in a plastic bag, and just gently mist it. And it doesn't really need a ton of sunlight. You can put it in a sunny spot and it'll germinate faster. And this is also a great activity for students to actually either draw what they see every day, write about what they see every day. Students are always super excited to see how their seeds have been growing. And so that's another activity that can kind of happen in parallel with their seeds growing. After a certain amount of time, depending on what kind of seeds you use, they can be transplanted into a container. As I mentioned, doesn't really matter what kind of container, but there are a lot of different found containers that you can use. And here you can see that I ripped off a piece of the seed paper and just kind of gently placed it in this section of an egg carton and put a little bit of soil on top of it. As I mentioned, you'll need to spritz it every day just to keep it hydrated. And normally what we would do is we would put them in a clear plastic container to make like a little mini greenhouse, so that we did this over the winter time. And so we wanted to make sure that the plants were warm. So we would put them in a plastic container. They still need air ventilation. So you don't want to keep the plastic container closed at all times, but just enough so that it keeps in the heat. So here's someone holding a seedling that they've transplanted from one cup to another cup. Just a sample setup of what we've done with a variety of different containers. And we were using lettuce because they germinate pretty quickly, and then just growing in a plastic bag. And so students were super excited. We used just like plastic egg cartons, and just watching the seeds germinate, they were very excited of going through the whole process of filling their containers, to learning the different parts of the plants, to actually planting them in the egg cartons. So over time, they'll get larger. You can either plant them outside or just in a larger container and have them keep growing. And then another fun activity that we did is we made a salad together from either lettuce that you grow or other vegetables, bringing them in and having kids learn about different fruits and vegetables. And the kids were very, very hesitant at first. A lot of them have never seen a turnip before. So people have never had blueberries. And so just being able to taste test and make their own salad dressing, and just kind of be together as a group. And I think these activities are great for older kids as well. And I feel like sometimes it's harder to find activities that are engaging for students over an extended period of time. And I feel like the seed paper making to growing to eventually being able to cook or prepare something with that food is also another engaging activity as well. So just talking about some successes and challenges. As I mentioned before, I think it's a very unique and artistic activity. It also can be related to science and other curriculum as well. It can be broken up into multiple stages, so it doesn't have to happen all at once, because I know it can be an more extensive process. Watching your plants grow is always fun, and another learning opportunity as well, and having kind of that ownership as a student. And then obviously transplanting seedlings either outside, or you can continue growing them indoors as well, just near a sunny window. And it's a great project for all ages. Some of the challenges is that depending on age, students might need more support and guidance when making the seed paper. It can be quite messy yet fun activity, and you might need a little bit more space than activity like microgreens or sprouts. And seedlings are always super delicate, especially in the early stages, so you just have to keep an eye on them as well, but it's worth the attention for sure. And then here's a slide with additional resources that we can talk a little bit more about.
I just added the
go for it.
I just added the link for the seed sprouter that you could get it. I think it's under $20. You have this and you can reuse it like forever in your classroom. They're very durable. And the seeds, if you want to get like the radishes seed, and that link has a whole bunch of other seeds that you could get. You don't need to get them on Amazon. You could get them at your grocery store. Just find the brassicas are good, and popcorn, the regular popcorn, like just the kernels, those are great for microgreens. And cups, year. And the curriculum for growing the popcorn, actually, we have it in the Mass Farm to School curriculums there if you had signed up, and other ones that I helped write.
Yeah, I think Mass Farm to School and Kids Growing Community are both great resources for other activities that you can do with students, and also are great connecting points as well with other webinars like this one, and like community boards, so you can talk to or like with other educators as well.
There is a question in the chat about videos. It says, do you have videos to help step-by-step instruction for students, or can you recommend any videos?
I always video my process, but I haven't shared it here today. But if you want to see stuff too, I have on Instagram, I do have I show everything that I do. So you could go there, but I could share if when you reach out to Mass Farm to School, we could work something out.
Yeah, and at the end of the slide deck, Juliana and Safiyat both have their email contacts, so you could email directly as well to get videos or more support.
Yeah, I've never videoed the paper making, but it's definitely something that I can do easily and talk through it more as well.
So both of these activities, these sprouts and microgreens and this paper making, seem like you could really do them with any grade level, from very young to secondary, depending on your students, and tailor it up or down and connect to other things. Have you, Juliana, have you done this paper making with just elementary? Have you ever done it with secondary students?
I've done it with like fifth graders. I have not done it with high school students yet, but it's definitely something that is on our to-do list for the spring and summertime, especially now that we're starting a garden at the high school. So very excited to get into their kitchen and make some seed paper.
Yeah, it seems like you could really cater it to if students were designing their own gardens, designing their own seed paper, right, based on their own. I know a lot of garden educators will divide gardens so students have their own plot or their own area, or they might have a theme garden. This could be a really interesting way to use this seed paper.
Yeah, and I think ownership is huge, and I think that creates more interest and engagement in the garden. And so I think, yeah, seed paper is a great way of kind of starting from the beginning, for sure.
I'm definitely going to try it with my students, because I think it's the same thing as seed tape, right, that you make, or they sell them out there. It's expensive, actually, so this would be another way. And also students, when I bring seeds, they always like spilling it and dropping it all over the place. So I feel like the seed paper could save us some seeds.
Yeah, it's one way to like appreciate the seeds more, because it's sometimes hard to imagine that each seed can turn into a plant and a lot of food. And so kind of thinking through that whole process is great. And I think, yeah, sprouts and microgreens is a great way to do that as well, because you can see each one grow and taste it very early on.
Yeah.
Juliana, is it best to, I would assume that when you're picking your paper, you don't want to use like the copy paper from schools that tend to have like bleach and dioxins in them. So do you go for more natural papers, or?
Yeah, I try to find more natural, less dyed, less added chemicals, especially with like different inks and things like that as well. So like you don't want to use any kind of paper, and trying to find more natural paper is ideal, especially if you don't want paper with like Sharpie markers on it, or any like heavy inks. And so it can be also another fun process as well, of learning about like recycling and reusing paper and soil health and plant health as well when trying to collect paper scraps.
Absolutely. You got, Juliana, you got a comment that says, thank you, Juliana. I'd be interested in paper making with my high school students. So we have a high school educator on the call.
That's awesome. No, definitely a great activity. And again, yeah, engaging high school students can be difficult. And so, yeah, I think this is a challenging yet fun activity to do.
One thing that I do with the students, like my garden clubs have from kindergarten or preschool all the way to high school. Sometimes they're all mixed up because it's in a community center. What I do is I ask, who wants to volunteer? That's my that's my trick. Who wants to volunteer? And almost most of them will raise their hand and want to be the lead of something. So just by passing around the cup or in charge of getting water or something, they all come together. Sometimes when I walk in the room, the older kids, one's in middle school, high school, I don't want to do this today. But once I say who wants to volunteer, they're all in there. So that's another trick that I do.
I think the paper making could be really interesting also to do, since you said you can write on it, to do like a letter writing on the paper, you know, or and send it to someone or some kind of, you know, sharing in that way. That's would be really fun.
There's a lot of different things you can do with the C paper. And I thought too, like between grades, I know sometimes there are like buddy systems or just kind of like writing to your future self, things like that of, writing on the C paper and either regifting it to yourself in the future or passing it down to a different grade level or sibling, things like that, before growing it.
Great. Does anyone have any other questions for Safiyat or Juliana? Or ideas that you might have heard that you think you'd like to try in your classroom, or ways that you could extend these activities that you would share with each other?
Yeah, always open to talking and collaborating about activities, especially during the winter time, always trying to find different activities to do with students.
Yeah, and again, you could do these activities all year round. So my garden clubs do not stop. We started in fall and we don't stop. So winter activities, we'll be doing sprouts and microgreens and, you know, other activities like hydroponic, you know, testing and experimenting. So there's always something, some activities that you could do in the classroom to introduce growing food.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And for people who are here, we'll send you the recording and the slide deck, and please stay in touch with Mass Farm to School and stay in touch with Safiyat and Juliana. If you have any questions about these activities or you'd like to see workshops on other things, you have any other questions, please reach out and we'll make sure we support your farm to school endeavors. So thank you.